What is up, bros and bras? And this is your boy Got You here, bringing you a super exciting video for the ages involving Dragonball Sparking Zero. And I got my boy, Don't Lose to Fear. Say what's up to the people, man.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Fear here.
Yeah.
You ain't ready for what we're about to talk about. Let's get into it.
All right, so the the biggest question of today is Dragon Ball Sparking Zero a competitive game online? So take it away, Fear. What's your thoughts on that? Where you want to start, buddy?
Okay. So for me personally, like the answer is no. But I think there's a lot of nuance and we can talk about it. There's a lot of different points. For me, I think in general, there's a lot of randomness and lack of consistency in the game because initially I thought that the game didn't really lag at all online, but it does actually lag from time to time and in important moments, making it so certain counters are favored, like the perception counter, and then other counters that are more skill-based, like the Z counter. It makes it a lot harder to know when to do that because the timing is all off, and sometimes you're don't even have enough frames to do it in a particular time, and you just get hit. So, yeah, what do you think about that?
I 100% agree with you because when I look at this game, I also feel that Dragon Ball Sparking Zero definitely isn't a competitive game online. It is a fun game, don't get us wrong. It's super fun to play, but if you're looking at it in a competitive sense, it's definitely not competitive online. Because let's talk about what you just mentioned about the issues with online. The online is not perfect at all, nowhere near that. I mean, the day that we actually get a dev that says, yes, we are going to make sure our games has rollback netcode. Yeah, that I don't see that ever happening. But if it ever does, that is a time to rejoice because that is a stigma with most anime games, is that they don't have a stable netcode, and that is something that's always kind of like the last thing they focus on. And so remember, Fear, how we had those we sparred with each other and we talked about how the online gets in the way, makes it hard to figure out when to press your inputs for the Super and Z counters.
Yeah, I remember that.
Here's my question for you. Were you able to do them? Did you have an easier time doing the Super and Z counters offline?
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's like night and day. And then what I find is I'll be like in a ranked match, and then it'll even happen a few matches in a row or something where I'll be trying to do those counters, and they're just like, basically kicking me back and forth, right, and vanishing, and I can't get out of it, and I take full damage into a super, and I can't get out of it. But when I was offline, I press it, and then I have probably about a 60% chance. I'm just a beginner. I'm not great at the game, but I have about a 60% chance offline of hitting it, and then online, sometimes it's like, I'll miss it like 3 or 4 times in a row, and then again 3 or 4 times in a row, like the entire match. So, yeah, it's a little frustrating. It's a little frustrating because it's like it makes you want to rely on the perception counter because that one is so easy. You just press the circle button, right? And you hold it down, and there's not a lot of a cost to it, and it just easily works, and there's a lot more frames there, and it works online a lot better. I think that offline, these other counters, high skill counters, you would probably the game would probably be played completely differently, right? But online, I think both of us see just people basically spamming perception, right?
Yeah, that is a very common thing now, dude. It's almost to the point where you literally have to spend more time figuring out, okay, how are you going to break through that perception? Because like you said, there's little risk reward there because You don't have to, all you do is hold the damn button down and it's an easy bake oven counter. And to make matters worse, there's not enough cost. I mean, for something that has a high percentage of landing, I feel like what they should have done to alleviate that problem, especially with online being a thing, is that it costs a lot more, or even go as far as making it where these perceptions, especially the auto one, that it requires you to waste the stock in order to do it, because now people would be forced to choose. Are they going to use a stock to use perception? Or they're just going to, you know, try to use the other counters? Because guess what? A lot of people love them skills so much, and they're going to have to choose. Do I want to waste the stock to counter? You know, that sort of thing. And I hate the fact that you have to go online and literally ask yourself, when is the best time to press the button? Because you're taking hits trying to figure out when is the best time. Like when I was helping you figure out how to do it online, and you literally have to press it the moment that your opponent vanishes, and you have a higher chance of performing the Z counter. But the actual input is you press the block button the moment that they're about to strike you, which is wild. It's a huge difference, because the latency, it just screws the timing up to the point where you have to do it much sooner. What are your thoughts on that? Because you're beginner to that, and you have,
Yeah.
I like your insight on this because you're newer to the game. So how did you feel about that?
Well, like I said, it's really random, and it feels like the opposite of competition. It just feels like you're just randomly pressing the button at a certain time, hoping that you're gonna somehow get out of it, right?
Yeah.
And versus like when it was offline, there's control. But I really like your suggestion about the key taking more, and so there's more of a risk and reward and more of a punishment, right? Like a consequence for your actions. Now, the other thing is we really have people out here saying that they're cooking with the perception counter. Like, what on earth is going on, bro? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they actually think that. They say that. And all they have to do is hold that button down, that easy bake oven counter. Cooking with the easy bake oven counter. Let's go.
Right. They making that awesome sauce, man, with very little effort, bro. I mean, how is that competitive? When I'm going to ask you this, because I know you've seen me play fighting games, and you've played Dragon Ball Fighters and other games like that, and there's the inclusion of a counter. Are counters that easy to pull off?
I mean, it's not uncommon to pull them off, but they shouldn't be easy, right?
Right.
Like, that's kind of my way of answering that. Like, is that, yeah, like, there should be some difficulty there, some skill involved. You should have to earn it at some level, but if you just sit there holding guard, like as they do in Sparking a lot of times, in Sparking Zero in ranked mode, they're just sitting there in the air holding guard, and you can see them posing.
Yeah.
And like they're just holding it, you know, they're just holding it, right? And then they basically like unpress it, and then they press it. Like they're just baiting you into it, right?
Yep. and that's the thing that's going, it just slows the momentum, right? Because some people don't like the box, because when they can use perception, they'll sit there and they know a certain skill or super that a character has, and they're waiting for you to attack so that they get the perception, and then they're gonna pop some kind of super. And some characters have unblockable supers. Some characters require very little ki to pull off a super, like Super Saiyan Gohan, Super Saiyan level 2 Gohan. It only takes 2 bars of ki for him to launch a Kamehameha wave, and that does some hefty damage in that form.
Yeah, I think that, as you had mentioned before when we were talking, that there's a lot of different cheese in this game, a lot of ways to cheese your opponent, and there's a lot of kind of like shortcuts or uh, certain advantageous characters or skills that characters have, right? Like, you know, having a lower cost for a super or like a Kamehameha wave, that's a big deal, right? Because a lot of times you really have low ki because you're using ki on ki blasts. You're using it to move around forward to your opponent. You're using it to kind of like teleport behind and dash behind your opponent, right? When you press XX and you charge up.
Right.
And you're using it for vanishing, right? And when you're attacking and stuff like that.
Yep.
So a lot of times, if in the game does a pretty good, this is where the game does a pretty good job of like kind of matching you with like decently skilled opponents of the similar skill level. What I would say in the very few, you know, maybe in the first week it didn't, because there was a lot of skilled, experienced players of the former series, Tenkaichi series, right?
Right.
That are just phenomenal at the game. And of course, they're starting off in the D ranks and then the C ranks. And you're fighting these people that are A or Z for
Right.
sure, A or Z warriors. So that happened a lot. And it did a really bad job of actually matching people up initially. But I find now that some time has passed, you're getting more accurate matches. So in that sense, it's competitive.
Okay.
And I do agree with you that the game it can be at times very fun. And at the very least, you know, if you want to talk about, maybe we can just take that pivot a little bit, and you can talk about, because this was your point, talk about the authentic experience that this game gives a Dragon Ball fan.